First of all, I just want to share with you my personal glee in being able to wear a suit today. Ordinarily, I try to avoid suits, right? Whenever I can get away with showing up to the office in something casual, short of a bathrobe, I do it. But during the pandemic, it's been quite the opposite. So it's nice to be official, to have the official uniform on. So I want to start off by just sharing that sentiment with you. And everybody here looks good, especially with your masks on. So thank you for that. So we have a program today in which we are going to be focusing on that area right there, which is something I think a lot of folks are familiar with. It, of course, is the New Bedford Municipal Golf Course, affectionately known by golfers and others alike as the Whale, and what it means, how it's going to play into New Bedford's future. We're revealing today a refined plan for something that we announced in 2017, which was to create an advanced manufacturing campus on the side of the golf course. And I'll take a moment in a couple of minutes to review how that came about and then what's happened since then. But this is a really an auspicious point because it's been a very difficult project to move forward for lots of reasons, and I'll mention why. But it's also one that promises a tremendous amount of benefit for New Bedford, for Greater New Bedford and beyond, in terms of job creation, tax generation and tax base expansion, catalyzing other development up and down Hathaway Road. And so we're here at a fairly elevated site so that we can sort of conceptualize how that all might happen, and to create, to really elevate in every respect New Bedford's business community. That is the highest elevation in the city, and it is a very marketable site for lots of reasons. And it's one that back in 2014 we started to talk about as a potential new business park for the city. Back then, and it's some 6 years now, back then, we took a step back and said, why is it that we're not developing the business park? Remember, Derek Santos was there in my office that day, and Neil Mello as well. And we said there's really no good reason. We're seeing declining revenue from the golf course itself. The golf market had been contracting for a number of years, and we knew a couple of other things about the city's business community. One is that the city has lots of older industrial sites, of the textile mills and other buildings that aren't nearly as marketable for modern advanced manufacturing or distribution warehouses for lots of reasons. They're multi-level, there are posts in the way, the surrounding land isn't as expansive as modern manufacturers need. Then we looked at our business park where we do have the space available, or at least in theory, and that was essentially all developed as it is now. We have this is good news, we have a fully developed business park in the North End, and it's a tribute to the hard work of a lot of folks over the years, Derek and Tony Sapienza and Liz Isherwood and many others, Tom Davis, but we have to look for more space. So we started in earnest having this conversation about, how do we do it? We started talking to Mass Development about it, and then a casino development. This is around the time that casino development was something that was active in Region C of the state, the southeastern portion of the state. And Foxwoods came to us. We took a run at the possibility of having a casino there. After that faded to black, we started in again to figure out how we can at once develop that site and also continue the golf course. And so we took a number of steps. One was to get out of what was a very onerous operating agreement we had with the previous operator of the golf course, that was in which the city itself was losing a considerable amount of money and was locked up for some 35 years in total. We got out from underneath that. We started to think about how to operate it, and then the Carlsons came around, and they are now doing a fabulous job running the golf course. We appreciate all that they do at the site now. we want to keep a golf course, but we also want the jobs. We want opportunity for our residents that those jobs represent. We want to lighten the load on our city's taxpayers, and we want to catalyze other development. So we proceeded with mass development, knowing that that site has very compelling attributes. I mean, you take a look around here and you see a number of things that strike you about the site. When you think about commercial development, again, the open space is important for manufacturers and distributors, but this one in particular makes a big difference because it's right there. It's at a heightened elevation, so very little in the way of wetlands, no contamination. Then you have right here the intersection of two major highways, a hugely advantageous attribute as well. And then you have on the backside a rail spur, and then you have the airport right there. And then when it comes to sort of municipal development, you think about like where do the neighborhoods lay, and the answer is on the other side of the highways. And so it's not a potential development that would create the kind of externalities, as economists would say, that would discourage use. I mean, we had the people live on the other side of the highways in relation to where this would go. So a prime spot, as we started to talk about it in the state, with mass development, and with others at the state, they made clear, they said, not only a good spot, it's the best spot in eastern Massachusetts. And for all those reasons, and because there just aren't a lot of other options in eastern Massachusetts where there is considerable demand for that kind of space. We've seen in the last couple of years at the state level in Massachusetts and Rhode Island a big push to develop those kind of green space sites. Both governors Baker and Raimondo have started their own initiatives to accelerate those developments, and frankly, New Bedford's ahead of the game. And so as we try to be all the time, and all the things that are important to us. So we began to move forward with this site, and we announced in 2017 what we would do, which is to develop 100 acres of the site for commercial development, and that the remainder would be left for at the time 9-hole golf play. And we believe that it would create, given the market demand, given the market studies, about 1,000 jobs, and generate about $2.7 million of additional tax revenue for the city. So all to the good. So we might say, well, what happened then? That was some 3 years ago. Well, we had a big monkey wrench that was thrown into the works, which was a decision by the state Supreme Court that expanded the definition of protected open space under Article 97 of the state's constitution. The case was Smith versus City of Westfield, and it basically said not only are parks protected, but playgrounds, recreational spaces are created. We can debate the merits of that case, but the reality was that's a card, the hand we're dealt, and so we decided, we're gonna figure it out. So we sat down, and this, of course, took a great deal of time to do, but we since then come up with a plan that accommodates the need to replace the open space. New Bedford, since right around the beginning or middle of the First World War, has owned a rifle range in South Dartmouth that is about 220 acres. And these types of military facilities have been in the news of late. We heard earlier this summer debates about the naming of military facilities that were established back around the same time. Well, we had one here in Greater New Bedford that wasn't named after a Confederate officer, by the way. So we looked at that and said, let's see if we can continue to use the rifle range there, which is used by a number of police departments around the country, and create some open space that we can trade, in effect, with what we want to develop here. So that's what happened, and it happened because we worked very closely with DNRT, the Dartmouth Natural Resources Trust, which did a fabulous job in working with us to figure out how we can preserve what would become 150 acres over there. And I want to thank DNRT for that work. Lorraine Granda, who's the chair. I don't know if Lorraine is here today. I don't know if she's. Thank you, Lorraine. And thank you, Dexter Mead, the executive director of DNRT. for their efforts in making that happen. So we have a conservation restriction with DNRT that will make that will allow for the trade to take place. So that is a big obstacle that has been removed from our ability to develop that site. So with that out of the way, a considerable amount of other work has been done on the site since 2017. We've worked with the state, with Secretary Thea Haridi's office, Jen Sula, who's the general counsel there, as well as Mass Development, which gave us a $300,000 site readiness grant to advance the project. We studied the market, we studied the site has been delineated, it's been engineered, we've figured it out. It's going to be shovel ready without too much more work, and a lot of good will come of it. And in the meantime, we've figured out through the work of our golf consultants how to turn it into a course that could have an 18-hole option. When we first announced it, we understood that a number of golfers at least wanted to keep the possibility of an 18-hole course open, and so that can happen. The default will be the 9-hole course, but there will be enough space to turn it into 18 if the city wants it down the line. So I just want to thank Bob McNeil, who's the principal of Northeast Golf Company, for, I don't know if Bob is here. There he is. I can't recognize people with masks on. You all look the same to me. No, just so and as well as Dennis Seguin, who's the vice president of Niche Engineering, all did great, very thorough work on the site to make sure that we were getting it exactly right. I also want to thank Lauren Liss and Ed Starzyk from Mass Development for all of their support along the way, as well as Frank Gracie and the entire board, select board of the town of Dartmouth. I don't know if Frank is here. Frank's not here today, but all the work that they did to support this project as well. So what is the upshot of all this? The upshot is we've got a site that since 2017 has gotten around major regulatory obstacles, some of which were not foreseen, the biggest of which was not foreseen. That was the intervening court case. We have done a lot of work, and this bee's attracted to me, which is great. Done a lot of work to ready the site, and we've been talking to developers already, commercial developers who are literally salivating to take a run at this and to develop it. So we're really bullish on that. We've had, in the meantime, as Derek will tell you, a number of market studies that have not only affirmed our initial assumptions that we could create at least 1,000 jobs over there, but have actually said, you know what, it may even be stronger than that as well, because what's happening is eastern Massachusetts is filling up. It's being developed, and there aren't many places like that left. Again, it really bears emphasizing. So there are lots of people to thank for this. And I just want to note, Senator Markey and Senator Montigny, Representative Markey, not Senator Markey, were really instrumental in just backstopping things here. This is going to take a lot of work at the state level, including a vote of the legislature to put through. We're very confident that will happen because we've laid the groundwork for it. But they were really, they couldn't be here today. Audra Riding from Senator Montigny's office is here. But they have been in support of this project at every step of the way, and that's been hugely important. The rest of the delegation has been as well. Tony Cabral has been all about creating opportunity for our residents, as well as Chris Hendricks. They're both here today, along with Paul Schmidt. All three of them have been about seizing every opportunity we get to throw the doors of opportunity open to our residents. And so, guys, I really want to thank you for that support. You'll hear from Tony on behalf of the legislative delegation in a second, but I really want to emphasize that this is yet another example of really close coordination among the elected officials in the city and region, as well as our City Council President Joe Lopes, Ward 3 Councilor Hugh Dunn in particular have been really steadfast and understanding that this is really a catalytic project for New Bedford and for Greater New Bedford, and you'll hear from them in a second. But I really wanted to thank them personally for their great work. I also want to thank Scott Lima and Brad Markey again, who are really take such a thoughtful approach to their work on the City Council, and to seizing advantageous business opportunities along the way. There were some others to thank, and I do. I'm not going to be able to hit all of them, honestly, because this has been a lot of work. I really want to single out 3 people in particular on the city team. Derek Santos, of course, Neil Mello, and Michaela McDermott. Derek has been our economic development director for some 6 years now, and was here at the start of the germination of this concept, and has just done fabulous exacting work about why this matters, and has been so incisive and persuasive about why this will be a needle mover for the city. And so Derek, great job as always. Channel 12 is going to sue me at the end of this presentation because I'm going to ruin their microphone. Sorry, guys. And of course, the Economic Development Council, headed up by Tony Sapienza, and the Regeneration Committee, co-headed up by Tony and Maureen Armstrong. Great support by you guys. The purpose of the Regeneration Committee is to really help the city move strategically. Cities grow, cities prosper when they think not just about what's next, what are we doing next week, what are we doing next month, but really when we think 20 years from now and beyond. And so this is right in the Regeneration Committee's wheelhouse, and we really appreciate your leadership and support. Neil Mello has been the grease in the wheels along the way, my chief of staff, and just making sure all these moving parts work together extremely well, and has just continued to drive this project, which is what's absolutely needed when you have something as complex and as large as this. Michaela McDermott has helped us sift through what are some thorny and novel legal issues, and without her analytical ability, without her common sense approach to legal analysis, and her ability to work with the state and other attorneys, we wouldn't be here today. We would be mired in the legal thicket that this thing presented. A number of others from the city I really do want to give shout outs to, and unfortunately I'm not going to hit everybody, but it bears emphasizing that the detailed attention to this project by Mary Raposa, Mark Champagne, Sean Seid, and Michelle Paul has been instrumental. All 4 of them have really dug in and done a great job in understanding the markets, understanding the site, understanding the opportunity, and have been so professional along the way. I know this has been a little bit of a long presentation. There's a reason for it. This project has been long in germination, and I'm here to tell you that this represents really significant progress for the city. Really significant progress for the city, and it's really a testament to what it takes for an older industrial city to actually reposition itself. We do a lot of work on the waterfront. We do a lot of work in a number of areas of the city to grow jobs, but to do something that's this big requires a lot of perseverance, and there have been lots of challenges with this project. For starters, we had this SJC case that came out of the blue that really complicated things. There's folks who, understandably don't want to see the change that it would represent, that the development of the golf course would represent. I think the vast majority have been very understanding about what's happening to golf and what the city's needs are, and we appreciate that. But that's we've worked through those issues as well. And then of course, we're wearing masks because we're in the middle of a 100-year plague, and that certainly has complicated matters as well. We've worked through all of these things and worked closely among one another as elected officials. We've worked closely with the business community, whether it's with the EDC, with the chamber headed up by Rick Kidder, who's always been right there with us and supporting these efforts. Thank you, Rick, for being as steadfast as you have been. The City Council, of course, the legislative delegation, the Park Board. Paula Deere is here, Elaine Safiolis, and are here on behalf of the Park Board, and have been really thoughtful about how to make this project a better one. But that's what it takes. It's not easy. None of this stuff, and I'll stop in a second, but it really bears emphasizing. I really want everybody to understand this. This stuff is not easy. It's complicated, and it would be easy just to walk away from it. There wouldn't be big political ramifications if we just stopped. But what we're trying to do is make our city a better place, a place where people can grow up and have a good childhood. They can have opportunities to secure careers here, to use those careers to live a good life with their families and send their kids to college and live the American dream. That's what we're trying to do. That may sound like all rhetoric, but what's behind the rhetoric is a lot of hard work and perseverance. And I just want to thank everyone for sticking with it. This project has a tremendous amount of running room right now, but it's in really fantastic shape through the work of all of you. So I want to thank you personally for that. All right. With all that, with that big lead up, we have a few people who are going to speak today. And I want to, again, emphasize the support that we've received from our state delegation. Chris Markey's, we're in Chris Markey's district. Chris has been with us all the way, as well as Senator Montigny, but all of our delegation work in concert with one another. Every member does. And so I want to call up my good friend Tony Cabral to say a few words on behalf of the delegation. Tony.
Well, good afternoon. As the mayor said, I've been all about opportunities for the residents of New Bedford, and that's what this project really, in the end, means to me and to all of us. Of course, we have a role to play. We have a home rule petition that needs to be passed by the legislature to allow the swap of the land, and we are working together to make that happen. I mean, that's why the home rule petition provision is there precisely for projects of this nature that are based in a community that might need to alter or pass some legislation to allow that to happen. That was the reason why for that provision. But this is about, I'll leave the weeds, I'm not going to get into the weeds, the mayor already did, and I'll leave that for Neil Mello and other folks who've been working, and Derek Santos and others who've been working behind the scenes for the last several years to make this happen. This is really a wonderful opportunity to repurpose this land. And at the same time keeping the recreational aspect of what happens now there with the golf course. So I think that's a win-win situation, repurposing the land to allow additional industrial and commercial space that we need in New Bedford. It's like we are reinventing ourselves in a sense to allow that to expand. And yes, it is in the end about opportunities for good paying jobs for the residents of this city, opportunities for them to raise a family in this city so they don't have to leave because they cannot afford to live or they don't have the opportunities to live the opportunities in the city. About 1,000 jobs. I know many people in New Bedford would love that opportunity to acquire and get one of those jobs in the future. Additional space for development for industrial and commercial. Yes, that represents to us, besides jobs, property taxes. And you know as well as I do that the residents of this city need relief when it comes to property taxes, especially those who live in the city like myself and others, and the mayor as well, obviously. But the regular folk that gets up every day and they go to work and they own a house and they want to stay in New Bedford, they want to give the opportunities to their kids in New Bedford, we need. And having a better mix of commercial / industrial and residential property tax opportunities is very important for all of us. So we're going to be working very closely with Senator Montigny, obviously, the Senate side, and Chris Markey, and all of us, my colleagues here, Chris Hendricks and Paul Schmidt. I believe we're all on board, right? That's why we are here. If we were not on board, we wouldn't be here. But believe it or not, and DNRT, thank you very much for that possibility of that swap as well. That's wonderful. It will preserve so much open space and that are wonderful for our environment as well in Southeastern Mass. That means for our quality of life in New Bedford and our quality of life in our gray area. So, yes, it's about opportunities, as the mayor said. And that's what we're going to be working. And the home rule petition is about creating that opportunity. And we're going to, I believe on this particular one, I think it meets all the standards of a home rule petition. We're going to work hard at the beginning of 2021 to make that happen so the project can move forward. So to all of you, everyone who has had a little, Tony Sapienza and others, and the whole council, thank you very much for all the work you guys do. It's about folks like yourself and Rick from the chamber. Nice seeing you here. Obviously, it's always important to have the business community involved and participating on these opportunities. So again, on behalf of my colleagues, Paul and Chris and Chris, right? Chris, Mark and Chris Hendricks, and of course, Senator Montigny. I know Audra is here. Audra, thank you very much for your work behind the scenes, by the way, in Senator Montigny's office. Audra does a wonderful job representing the needs of our community. Whenever the senator gets involved, Audra is always there as well to work with us. So thank you all. Thank you, Mayor. And thank all of you for being part of this project. Thank you.
Yeah, Tony is absolutely right on the matter of tax base expansion. It's this will be a significant shot in the arm to the city's fisc, and the evidence of that has been skillfully fleshed out by our CFO Ari Sky over the last few years, who's gotten us to understand what as we make the presentation to the public and as we discuss this internally and among public officials, elected officials, that we have those numbers, definitive numbers to to back up our arguments. So Ari, thank you for playing that instrumental role. The city council has been great on this, and it's through the leadership of City Council President Joe Lopes, as well as councilors. We're in Ward 3 right here. Councilor Hugh Dunn has been a really terrific supporter of this project, and of course, Brad Markey and Scott Lima again have been right there along the way, as well as the other councilors. And I really wanted to single out Joe for his efforts here. He really helped facilitate the discussions on the council. He has been supporting this project for a while. He clearly, as someone who's been in finance most of his career, he understands well what the import of this project is, and he certainly has let that be known to others, and it's that kind of leadership that is very necessary to get a project as big and as complicated as this done. So Joe, I want to thank you personally for that effort, and ask you to come on up and say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank everyone for coming. I remember the first meeting that Derek and Neil and I had in 2017 when we had this discussion, and we said then, and it's true today, that the only way this would happen was it truly had to be a local, state, and regional approach. And that is seen by everyone that's here today. From the Dartmouth DNRT to local state representatives, the districts that we're in, it has collectively always been about a regional approach to a local asset being the golf course. But we're going to take that local asset and we're going to expand on it. As everyone has said here today, in the business world, it's always been about location, 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 and this provides that exact location. As the mayor said and the rep said, rail spur, airport, those are two catalysts that not every community has, that only enhances the value of that commercial real estate once it's been developed. There's a reason why Mass Development wants to work with us. It's because we have the workforce that is here, that doesn't need to be trained, but it's already here to do the jobs of the future. And we're learning that with the blue economy and everything else that's been transpiring. New Bedford, as the mayor has said countless times, continues to grow. And this is another tool that allows New Bedford to continue to grow, not just locally, but regionally across the Commonwealth. You know, as Rep Cabral said, and the mayor said, this is about tax stabilization for those single-family homeowners, those multiple-family homeowners, that we need to find the scale that puts not the burden on the homeowner or the business community, but evens it out across the board. And this helps to do that. And Derek and Ari, thank you for all the work that you did in coming up with those numbers. It's easier to go to your constituents and your colleagues on the council, and I do have Brad Markey and Scott Lima here, and we're in New Dunn's ward, and it's easier to talk about those numbers when it's right in front of you. So Derek and Neil and Ari, honestly, thank you for all the work that you did in revising those numbers. Because Derek, I don't know how you put up with me a couple times with some of our discussions, but
All the guys have to stick together.
but honestly, you know, Derek and don't forget Neil too. You know, we
Behind you.
we had several discussions where we were always making sure that the numbers that we were going to present to the body and to the general public were as close to we could get and feeling comfortable with those. And Ari, honestly, I really do want to thank you. I know I asked you a couple times, is that the best we can do? And you were as honest as you could be, and I appreciate that. And I do appreciate the kind words the mayor had. I remember when we first had this discussion in the St. Louis airport, and I looked at him with two heads because I used to play a lot of golf. And I was like, how can we make both things work? And we brought in the right manager that understood from the very beginning that there was the future possibility that could go from an 18 to a 9. And they embraced it. So we are very lucky to have a good partner that understands the golf course. And everyone that's playing it now sees the value in it. And they're going to continue to see the value. With a new clubhouse, a new parking lot, and amenities that the city couldn't afford to do, we'll be able to do with a project like this. This is a win-win for the city, it's a win-win for the community, and it's a win-win for the golfers and everyone that's going to take part. And Tony, thank you for all that you've done, continue to do in your leadership. And the mayor said we should wear suits. Look how I feel like I am underdressed in jeans, but
We're all coming back to us.
we're all coming back to work. But honestly, I want to thank the mayor and the entire delegation for all that they do and continue to do to see this project into fruition. And thank you all for being part of it and for all collectively working together. When a community comes together, we all win. So thank you.
All right, nice job, Joe. So I'll open it up for questions. Just one programming note, so Rick Kidder doesn't have to proselytize anymore. So we're having a rolling Chowder Fest this year, so you can get your coupons in this brochure and support the great work of the chamber. So go see Rick if you're hungry for chowder today. All right, Mary, take it away.
I have a question for Representative Cabral. Hi, Mary Cerez, WBSM News. You were talking about the article, was that the home rule petition? The home rule petition on Beacon Hill? Is that for Article 97? The home rule petition?
Yes, it is.
And when do you expect that to get up for a floor vote?
Well, first the city council has to approve it locally because it is a home rule petition. And then of course the signature of the mayor is important. Any home rule petition that comes up to us has to have the signature of the mayor, or else becomes a problem. So the mayor cannot just, I'm sure he's going to sign this one. And then we will introduce it at the beginning of the session when it gets to us on 2021.
Beginning of 2021, that's a new session. And refresh my memory, Article 97, does that need a 2/3 majority of both houses?
Yes.
Yeah, it does. Okay, thank you.
I believe we have enough members of the delegation to convince 2/3. So, and the issue is one that I think it's fairly easy to understand and to explain to the members of the legislature, both the House and the Senate, that the importance of actually doing Article 97 in this case.
Yeah, I think the key is, so we are going to, just to elaborate a little bit, my administration will file the measure with the city council to kick off the process imminently in the next week, and then the city council will take it up in the next couple of months during the holiday season, and then it'll go up to the legislature thereafter. And then we'll take it from there. I think the key is a 2/3 vote sounds daunting, but what's key here is that the city is trading 150 acres in the town of Dartmouth for 100 acres there. So there's actually for all the land development, there's actually 150% of acreage being dedicated in perpetuity for preservation. Anybody else? Kelly, yeah, go ahead.
What businesses are going to be moving in? Any interest from?
Yeah, so and Derek can elaborate on this, but in general, where we're looking for are advanced manufacturers. So that would include things that have been succeeding here in Massachusetts. So the life sciences would be certainly one area we'd look to. There's tremendous demand up in the Boston area for space for life science manufacturing, and although we're some 60 miles away from Boston, at least we're in a position here to say, look, better here than in North Carolina or somewhere else in the Sun Belt. You can get to Boston without too much trouble. So that's, I think, one of the key selling propositions. Anybody else?
Last time I was here,
After I wreck your microphone.
last time I was here, we were celebrating the opening of the Whale's Tail. But earlier in the day, you mentioned, that day at least, you mentioned at the time you guys were looking at a 20% unemployment rate.
It's gotten better. Still not great.
Adding 1,000 jobs, not just jobs though, but economic diversity. The importance of that for you.
Yeah, for sure. We're still, for all that we do on the waterfront, New Bedford is still very much a manufacturing city. Roughly 15% of our workforce is in manufacturing, and we think that there's room to grow there because we have a very skilled workforce. And we know that a couple things. First, that we do have to continue to diversify our economy and do it by seizing opportunities that align with our competitive advantages. So there are lots of obvious advantages on the waterfront. The advantage with this has to do with, as I explained before, the way that this site is situated in relation to highways and rail and airport, as well as its relative proximity to a major metropolitan area to the north. So those are all things that those are attributes that we can capitalize on to help diversify our economy. The other thing is, and that's really worth emphasizing, is that, and I said this in my State of the City speech a couple of months ago, we cannot afford simply to hunker down in the midst of the pandemic. We have to. Our residents expect us to walk and chew gum at the same time, of course, but we've got to do all the other things that we're expected to ordinarily do. But it's more than that. I feel very strongly that we have to come out swinging, and not just be in self-protective mode, but actually to think about the pandemic as representing a set of opportunities that allow our city to get out ahead of others. Because we're in a competition here, and we need to make sure that when we emerge, as the pandemic will end at some point, that we're in better shape than when we came in. So that's why we do this. That's why we do all the things we do on the waterfront. One of the big things I'll just note this week is New Bedford just got this massive federal grant earlier this week. It hasn't been covered much. I invite all of you guys to cover it, but it was the largest federal grant, largest grant by the Economic Development Administration in the Northeast in its history. And that's been an organization that's been in place, I think, since at least the 60s, an agency that's been in place. So, there were big things happening despite the pandemic in the city, that once the pandemic ends, we'll look around and say, geez, New Bedford's really taken a great leap forward, and that's what we're looking to do.
I actually have a question on that, the port grant. Could you kind of explain what it actually is? I know it has to do with severe weather and stuff, but could you kind of explain that really quickly?
I'm so glad you asked, Kelly. There are really two major components. One is to really beef up all the municipal fishing piers so that they are resilient to climate change, and also just in better working conditions so they last longer. And about $8 million of the total $20 million will go to building a new fishing pier in the Northern Harbor. So the $20 million is broken down by the $16 million from the EDA, $3.5 million from the state, and $0.5 million from the Port of New Bedford, and it'll be spent on two general purposes.
Just coming back to this project, when is the anticipated goal to have everything done?
Well, I mean, some of it's going to be dictated, a lot of it will be dictated by the market, but from here what we do is, we proceed with the legislation at the city level. From there, it goes, as we discussed before, it goes to the state for a vote. In the meantime, there will be work with the city council and the planning board on zoning the site appropriately so that it's progressive from an environmental standpoint, so as to exclude uses that we don't want to see there. There will be some design guidelines as well, and then it'll go out for a request for proposals to the market. And as we know, there's considerable interest among commercial real estate brokers for the site. And once it gets to that point, we'll be playing it up. We'll be marketing it.
So maybe a few years, or?
Yeah, I mean, so it's hard to say, but I mean, in general, we think that there will be some, once the legislative approvals are completed, it'll probably take 2 or 3 years to start to see development there, and it'll continue on from that point. All right, great. Everybody, thanks for all of your hard work, and we appreciate all of your contributions, and there's a lot to look forward to here, but thank you.